Welcome back to r/JustNoHoA, where today we will read a very special HOA horror story from r/NoSleep, and by the way, a huge shout out to the author of the story, Mandahrk on Reddit. Thank you so much for letting me read your awesome story, and yes, at the end of the video there will be a little cliffhanger, because this video is part of a 5-video series. And now, without any further ado, let's dive right into the story. So once again guys, huge shout out to user Mandahrk on Reddit for letting me read his fantastic story on YouTube. This story is titled, "My Homeowners Association seems to be a little too passionate about enforcing its rules." It was the perfect house. Built in the craftsman style, it was a beautiful amalgamation of wood, stone and brick. Its solid walls were adorned with broad windows that welcomed the early morning sunlight. It had a pillared porch made of old and stained wood that stood overlooking a lawn so well maintained it resembled a green carpet. A gravel driveway led up to a garage that was set up next to the house. The rooms were spacious, waiting to be filled with dreams and memories. It seemed like the ideal place to raise a family in. If only we had better neighbors. We had our first encounter with the Homeowners Association on the very day that we moved in. The sun beamed fire down upon us as we moved our boxes from the truck I had rented into the house. My wife and daughter were inside, sorting through the boxes, deciding which ones to open first, while I was out on the driveway, taking a short break from the tiring work to admire the gigantic oak tree that stood in the corner of the property, with one of its thick branches snaking up to a window upstairs. I did not even notice when she snuck up on me. "It's a beautiful house, isn't it?" I jumped, startled. "Sorry, didn't mean to scare you." I turned around and squinted, putting my hand up to my forehead to protect my eyes from the fiery sun. It was a woman, early to mid-40s, short blonde hair in a wavy bob cut. She was dressed professionally in a pencil skirt suit and had a leather binder in her hand. With a smile, she extended her hand. I shook it. "Hi, I'm Amanda. I'm the president of the Homeowners Association here." "Hello Amanda," I greeted her. "I'm Irfan Abbas. I guess we are your newest neighbors." Her smile grew broader. "Seems to be that way, although I'm not your immediate neighbor. I live 3 houses down the street." She chuckled. "Glad to have you in our community, Irfan. I hope you and your family come to love this place as much as we do." "I sure hope so," I replied. "Never thought we would make it to a gated community." "Oh, it's absolutely perfect," she gushed. "There's a great school just within walking distance. The HOA maintains its own childcare center, and we even have a common swimming pool and a tennis court just around the corner." "I read about it when I signed the documents for the house," I admitted. "It truly does sound like a dream." "Like I said, it's perfect," she giggled. "I wouldn't change it for the world." I flashed her a warm smile. "But probably the best thing about living here are the people," she added. "We truly have a sense of community here, you know. We all look out for each other. If anyone needs anything, the rest of us are always willing to help." I hesitated. "Yeah," she frowned. "Is everything okay?" "Yeah, no," I said hastily. "Everything is fine." I didn't want to tell her about our next door neighbor, who did not really seem all that happy to see us. We sat in his cane chair next to the big flag proudly fluttering from a pole mounted on the deck, with a permanent scowl on his face as we moved our luggage into the house. "Oh, you don't mean David, do you?" She flushed, slightly embarrassed. "Please don't mind him. David is harmless. He's just been a little down ever since he lost his son. He died there, you know, in Afghanistan." She leaned forward and added that last part in a whisper. "We are from Iraq," I clarified. Right, she replied dismissively. "As I was saying, he's a lovely person. Just give him a chance. I'm sure he will come around." I nodded. "Sure, so if there's anything else, I really do have a lot of work to get done today." "Oh yeah, before you go," I looked at her as she fumbled with the clasp of her binder before pulling out a crisp white paper. "Here," she handed it to me. "This document contains all the rules that the members of the HOA are supposed to follow. Standard stuff about lawn maintenance, house upkeep and trash collection." My eyes quickly scanned the document. "Sure, please read it carefully." "I will." "No, please, Do read it carefully. I looked at her in confusion. Like I said, I will. Her hand shot up like a viper and she grabbed my wrist. I winced at the vice-like grip she had on me. The smile was gone from her face, replaced by a disturbing mix of fear and frustrated impatience. I must repeat myself again, Mr. Abbas. It is imperative that you read the rules very carefully. She was breathing heavily and had a manic look on her face. There were other residents who refused to follow the rules, or were just too lazy to keep up. Some of them had to eventually sell their houses and move on, and they were the lucky ones. I freed my hand and clenched my fist repeatedly. Are you threatening me right now, Miss Amanda? Her eyes widened. What? No. Please try and understand. Everyone in this community has to follow the rules. Me, you, no exceptions. Bad things start to happen to us if we don't. Things that are entirely out of our control. She tilted her head and suddenly pointed at David's house. Was she trying to suggest? No, can't be. I will say it once again. Please take this seriously. There's absolutely nothing strange about the rules themselves, but the consequences of not following them can be painfully out of the norm. Because, like I said, this place is perfect, but that sort of perfection always comes with a cost. I was getting very weirded out by the conversation, so I just nodded as seriously as I could. We will take this with all the seriousness that it deserves, I promise. A smile crossed her face again. It was jarring just how quickly she switched expressions. Welcome to Seastone Ridge, Irfan. I decided not to tell my wife about the strange talk I had with the president of the HOA, at least not while our daughter was around. We could talk about nutty Amanda's strange behavior and superstitions later in the evening when Abida had gone to bed, I reasoned. As I strolled into the house, I saw my wife and daughter sitting on the floor, laughing as they chatted away. I could feel tears welling up in my eyes as I saw how happy and relaxed they looked. We had seen so much, been through so much, and to finally be safe and comfortable like this was more than what we could have once dreamed about. All worries and doubts faded from my mind. I was just relieved we were all together. Baba! Abida exclaimed when she saw me, her hijab almost slipping off her head. I smiled, placed the document Amanda had given me on an unopened box and went and joined my family. We spent the whole day trying to make the house livable. We tackled the bedrooms first, and after Abida chose the room upstairs near the oak tree, I assembled her bed and then moved on to our own room down the hall. By the time the sun began to go down, we had set up the 2 bedrooms and gotten through most of the work in the kitchen area. We ordered pizza for dinner, and after we ate it, we played a game of Uno before retiring to our bedrooms. And by the way guys, quick question in between, does anyone else here love Uno? I'm not really a fan of those super complicated card games, so Uno is really one of my favorites. Let us know which card game you like in the comments. Anyway, onto the story. There was a lot to be done the next day. Not just the packing, but I had to get in touch with my boss and we had to look at high schools for Abida. I was so preoccupied with everything that my encounter with the HOA president in the morning completely slipped my mind. And I did not tell my wife about it. I would come to regret that. A lot. I was having a fitful sleep, teetering at the edge of wakefulness when a terrible screech ripped through the silence of the night. I sat up straight, my heart racing as another screech erupted and then another, followed by faint sobbing. I took a deep breath to calm myself down. My wife moved. I put a hand on her shoulder. Don't worry, I got this. It's my turn. She grunted and mushed her head against the pillow. I yawned and rolled out of the bed, put on my slippers and walked out of the room towards Abida's. I flipped on the light switch and saw my daughter sitting up on bed, her knees drawn close to her chest, shivering and whimpering with a blanket wrapped around her like a cocoon. Hey, I said gently as I glided over and sat at the foot of her bed. It is okay, you are safe. She sobbed harder, tears streaming down her cheeks. It's okay, Abida, I repeated. You are safe. Nothing is going to harm you, okay? Her body got racked with shivers again. Abida, I said, I need you to breathe. Can you do that for me? She nodded. Breathe in, she inhaled. Now hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now breathe out. We went through her usual exercises. I asked her to breathe deeply, had her dig her toes into the bed, and then asked her to think about the time we had gone out to eat ice cream in Baghdad back when her brother was still with us. She began to calm down. I wondered what triggered the attack this time. Maybe it is the stress of moving into a new home. I didn't have to wonder for long because she told me soon after I hugged her. And it made my blood run cold. "There was someone at the window, Baba." I froze. "I swear, I'm not lying," she cried. "There really was someone there." I jumped out of the bed and raced to the window. There was nothing out there, only the leaves of the oak tree gently scraping against the glass. I spotted the branch of the tree. It was thick enough to support the weight of a person. I could not see what he looked like. He just looked like a shadow, but I knew he was there. He was tapping against the window and didn't stop until I screamed. Fear crashed into me like a hurricane. Could she be telling the truth? Why would she lie? She has no reason to, and she has never lied about something like this ever before. My mind leaped back to the conversation I'd had in the morning with Amanda. Could this have something to do with what she was telling me about? No, that's not possible. "Papa, you believe me, right?" "Yes, Abida, I believe you. Of course I do." She gulped, put her trembling hand up and pointed at the door behind me. "Because I think there was someone downstairs as well." I looked at her in stunned silence, half expecting a hand to slither out of the darkness and wrap itself around my neck like a boa constrictor. Beads of sweat trickled down my brow. I heard footsteps, but I wasn't really sure, but then I saw that shadow at the window. "Go to your mother," I said fiercely. "Lock the door behind you and call 911. I waited until she hurried over to her mother, watched as the door shut behind her with a soft click, and then prepared to move downstairs. My thumb hit the switch on the wall to my right, and the staircase was instantly bathed in a dull orange glow. But beyond that, there was utter darkness. From where I was, it looked like a living thing, shifting and swirling, ready to swallow anything that touched its infernal blackness. I took a step down and flinched as the floorboards creaked. I swore under my breath and hoped that the intruder had not hurt me. I blinked as sweat trickled down my jaw and wondered whether I was doing the right thing. Should I go downstairs and check? What if I get attacked? I shook my head. Isn't it my job to protect my family? I bolted down the stairs, ignoring the painful creaks and groans of the stairs, and rushed over to where I thought the light switch was. Fumbled around for a couple of extremely tense seconds before feeling relieved when my fingers found it. My index finger, slick with sweat, pushed the switch down. The living room was blasted with light. I scanned my surroundings. The doors were locked. I was alone. My daughter seemed to have imagined it all, or at least that is what I thought, until my eyes dropped and I noticed the floor. In the middle of the living room, on the floor, someone had used mud to scrawl the word "welcome". The writing was sprawling, occupying the space of a small coffee table. There were muddy boot prints that went back and forth from the word, probably made by the person who made this little sign. I tracked them, and my heart sank when I saw where they led to. I thought they would lead to the front or the back door, but no, they led me to the locked door of the basement. And guys, if you want to know how the story continues, then you have to come back tomorrow. This story has 5 parts in total, so there will be 4 more videos of this story. And I know this is quite a harsh cliffhanger, but I'm just curious if this format will work on YouTube or not. So please let me know in the comments if you enjoy these r/NoSleep stories, and if you do, please don't forget to like the video and post some star emojis in the comments. Thank you so much for the support. And as a little bonus, we will also read an HOA story from our own subreddit posted by user Ancient Eyes, and it is titled "How I Became the Head of the Very Thing I Hate." Hey Ripe, this falls under JustNoHoa HOA. Backstory: I lived on the East Coast, and for a couple of years I lived in a rented townhome that had an HOA. I had 2 roommates, so 3 bachelors in one place. Our backyard had a 6-foot privacy fence around the small yard, and my roommates loved to grill. These are just a couple of incidents. They find us because we had 3 grills. Oh my god, the horror. That means someone had to peer over our fence to even see this. We had almost a week at one point of straight rain, so no one could mow. Half of the yard looked like a lake at one point, and we had an electric mower that meant the grass could not be wet at all. We had to wait for an additional 3 days for the grass to be dry enough. We also got fined for long grass. I hated the HOA and swore never to live in one again. Yeah, I know, never say never, I should have known better. The cast is me, OP, Karen Insane Neighbor number 1 and Chet Insane Neighbor number 2. The story: a few years ago I found a foreclosed condo in a nearby small town. It was super cheap and it was too good of a deal to pass up. I stayed away from the HOA board politics as I attended the first meeting and saw how nuts and petty they were to each other. Chad was our previous president before I bought my place. He loves reminding us he used to run this place. I am scared to think of what this place used to be under his rule. Fast forward 2 to 3 years and we have a new board. The HOA board suggested that the dues be raised by $10 per month, as we were looking within 5 years of having to replace both the roof and completely redo the parking lot. We did not have the reserve funds to cover both at that time. Karen and Chad both objected, saying it was not needed. The budget passed and both Karen and Chad were so annoyed. They claimed that the budget was illegally passed and harassed the board so badly 2 out of the 3 board members quit. Karen stated on our Facebook page that it was an outage. We raised dues. Our dues at the time were $170 and this included heat, water, sewer, trash and recycle pickup. We had to have another annual meeting which I attended and the budget was passed again. This time without Chad and Karen at the meeting. They figured we wouldn't get enough people to attend to pass the budget, because we have to have over half of the owners either present or send proxy forms in. Usually those 2 were there and we barely had enough. We had a couple of neighbors that never attend to send in proxy, so we got the half we needed. Because there were only 4 people in the meeting, I was elected, forced to be on the board. At the next year's meeting, Chad and Karen protested of the current president should not be on the board, and we managed to get 2 other people, including me, on the board, and I reluctantly agreed to be president. I have been our HOA president now for over 3 years. I can see why people hate HOA boards when dealing with Chad and Karen's stupidity has been challenging, but I won't let them push me off. Chad has a habit of going out to the people we hire to plow snow and yell constantly if he does not believe the snow is high enough to deserve to be plowed. Last year he yelled at this guy. He called the property manager and told him that if Chad yells at him or his guys once more, he will cancel the contract. The property manager calls me and informs me of the issue. We both told Chad, who is a retiree in his 70s, if the snowplow people leave because of him, then he will be responsible for cleaning the parking lot himself. Since then that threat was made, he does not yell at the snowplow people. We got partly lucky as Karen sold her place and left last year. We found out later, as Karen and Chad did not want the dues raised, they had both hoped to sell their places soon and neither wanted to help pay for a roof on a place they did not live at. We had our roof redone this year. Chad asked, "Hey, are we going to have a special assessment to pay for the roof?" I reply, "No, this was why we raised the dues a couple of years ago, so we wouldn't have to do an assessment, remember?" Chad quickly changed the subject, realizing I called him out on his BS. Chad claims he is selling his condo this summer. Here is to the hope we will soon be drama-free. As president, I will admit if I see things I kind of let people slide on stuff or just go over personally without involving our property manager to speak to the person directly. I am determined to keep this HOA off the HOA Hall of Shame websites as much as I can. And this is how I became president of Horror of Adulthood, aka HOA. So guys, we have reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and I know they were a little different than usual, but I hope you don't mind. I just want to change things up a little bit, but of course if you don't like these no sleep HOA stories at all, then I won't continue with them. Therefore, it is really important that you give me some feedback in the comments, because in the end I am here to basically please you, and I don't want to read stuff that does not really interest you. Thank you very much for watching. And guys, unfortunately we have already reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and if you haven't already, please also go to patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where I upload exclusive Reddit videos starting at just $3 a month. This is a great way to support me in case you are interested, and the chance for me to become independent from YouTube revenue. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.